History of Botswana, published December the 9th, 2017. Special characters are denoted as follows: and, beginning and ending single or double quotations, and, left and right parentheses, 3 consecutive periods. The Botswana, a term also used to denote all citizens of Botswana, refers to the country's major ethnic group, called the Tswana in southern Africa. Prior to European contact, the Botswana lived as herders and farmers under tribal rule. Part 1. Before European contact. Sometime between 200 to 500 AD, the Bantu-speaking people who were living in the Katanga area, today part of the DRC and Zambia, crossed the Limpopo River, entering the area today known as South Africa as part of the Bantu expansion. There were 2 broad waves of immigration to South Africa, Nguni and Sotho-Tswana. The former settled in the eastern coastal regions, while the latter settled primarily in the area known today as the Highveld, the large, relatively high central plateau of South Africa. By 1000 AD, the Bantu colonization of the eastern half of South Africa had been completed, but not Western Cape and Northern Cape, which are believed to have been inhabited by Khitan people until Dutch colonization. The Bantu-speaking society was highly a decentralized feudal society organized on a basis of kraals, an enlarged clan, headed by a chief who owed a very hazy allegiance to the nation's head chief. According to Neil Parsons' online Brief History of Botswana, quote, Neil Parsons, Brief History of Botswana, Part 2. Beshi Wunderland Protectorate. In the late 19th century, hostilities broke out between the Shona inhabitants of Botswana and Ndebele tribes who were migrating into the territory from the Kalahari Desert. Citation needed. Tensions also escalated with the Boer settlers from the Transvaal. After appeals by the Botswana leaders Khama II, Bath Owen, and Sabelai for assistance, the British government on the 31st of March 1885 put Beshi Wunderland under its protection. The Northern Territory remained under direct administration as the Beshi Wunderland Protectorate and is today's Botswana, while the Southern Territory became part of the Cape Colony and is now part of the Northwest Province of South Africa. The majority of Setswana-speaking people today live in South Africa. The Tati Concessions land, formerly part of the Martable Kingdom, was administered from the Beshi Wunderland Protectorate after 1893, to which it was formally annexed in 1911. When the Union of South Africa was formed in 1910 out of the main British colonies in the region, the Beshi Wunderland Protectorate, Basutoland, now Lesotho, and Swaziland, the High Commission territories, were not included, but provision was made for their later incorporation. However, a vague undertaking was given to consult their inhabitants, and although successive South African governments sought to have the territories transferred, Britain kept delaying, and it never occurred. The election of the National Party government in 1948, which instituted apartheid, and South Africa's withdrawal from the Commonwealth in 1961, ended any prospect of incorporation of the territories into South Africa. Citation needed. An expansion of British central authority and the evolution of tribal government resulted in the 1920 establishment of 2 advisory councils representing Africans and Europeans. Proclamations in 1934 regularized tribal rule and powers. A European African Advisory Council was formed in 1951, and the 1961 Constitution established a consultative legislative council. Citation needed. Part 3. Independent Botswana. In June 1966, Britain accepted proposals for democratic self-government in Botswana. The seat of government was moved from Mafeking in South Africa to newly established Gaborone in 1965. The 1965 constitution led to the first general elections and to independence on the 30th of September 1966. Seretse Khama, a leader in the independence movement and the legitimate claimant to the Gwato chiefship, was elected as the first president, re-elected twice, and died in office in 1980. The presidency passed to the sitting vice president, Katumile Masaya, who was elected in his own right in 1984 and re-elected in 1989 and 1994. Masaya retired from office in 1998. The presidency passed to the sitting vice president, Festus Mogae, who was elected in his own right in 1999 and re-elected in 2004. In April 2008, Excellency the President Lieutenant General Dr. Seretse Khama Ian Khama, son of Seretse Khama the first president, succeeded to the presidency when Festus Mogae retired. Citation needed. Part 4. People of Botswana. All citizens of Botswana regardless of color, ancestry or tribal affiliation are known as Botswana, plural, or Motswana, singular. In the lingua franca of Tswana, tribal groups are usually denoted with the prefix ba, which means the people of. Therefore, the Herero are known as Beherero, and the Kgalagadi as Bakgalagadi, and so on. Botswana's 8 major tribes are represented in the House of Chiefs, the country's second legislative body. Part 5. Bakalanga. Botswana's second largest ethnic group are the Bakalanga, another powerful landowning group who are thought to descend from Rozwi, the culture responsible for building Great Zimbabwe. In the colonial reshuffle, the Bakalanga was split into 2 and now some 75% of them live in western Zimbabwe. In Botswana they are based mainly, although not exclusively, around Francistown. Citation needed. Part 6. Herero. The Herero probably originated from the eastern or central Africa and migrated across the Okavango River into northeastern Namibia in the early 16th century. In 1884 the Germans took possession of German Southwest Africa, Namibia, and systematically appropriated Herero grazing lands. The ensuing conflict between the Germans and the Herero was to last for years, only ending in a calculated act of genocide which saw the remaining of the tribe flee across the border into Botswana. The refugees settled among the Botswana and were initially subjugated, but eventually regained their herds and independence. These days the Herero are among the wealthiest herders in Botswana. Citation needed. Part 7. Bisubia. The Bisubia, Wei and Mbukashu are all riverine peoples scattered around the Chobe and Linyanti rivers and across the Okavango Panhandle. Their histories and migrations are a textbook example of the ebb and flow of power and influence. For a long time, the Bisubia were the dominant force, pushing the Wei from the Chobe River and into the Okavango after a little spat over a lion's skin, so tradition says. The Bisubia were agriculturists and as such proved easy prey for the growing Lozi Empire. From modern Zambia, which in turn collapsed in 1865, they still live in the Chobe district. Part 8. Wei. Bay. Originally from the same areas in Namibia and Angola as the Mbukashu, the Wai moved south from the Chobe River into the Okavango Delta in the mid-18th century to avoid the growing conflict with the Bisubia. Citation needed. This recording is a derivative work from Wikipedia. For more information, please visit www.frogcast.org.